Am I the asshole for telling my friend she wouldn't know what it's like to be yelled at work because she hasn't had a real boss in 10 years? I, late 20s, female, have been struggling at my job lately. My boss has been yelling at me, specifically when I ask questions. These are questions that I have to ask because someone recently quit and I inherited her responsibilities, many of which I've never done before or even seen. I went to HR and was basically told that's just her personality. So I've been sticking it out to avoid looking like a job hopper on my resume. While venting to my friend, we'll call her Haley, she told me that yelling is common practice in the workplace these days. That rubbed me the wrong way, especially since I feel like I'm doing my best under difficult circumstances. I pushed back and said I don't think yelling is common or acceptable, and added that she wouldn't really know because she hasn't worked under a boss in over 10 years. To clarify, Haley is a stay-at-home mum, which I respect, and is also on her father's payroll for tax reasons, but hasn't had a traditional boss or worked in a conventional office setting since college. She got quiet and has been distant since. I didn't mean to be rude, I just felt invalidated and frustrated. Am I the asshole for snapping back like that? In the comments, no, yelling is not common practice in the workplace these days. That said, you could have pushed back without highlighting her stay-at-home mum status. That was a bit petty and vindictive, but on the other hand, I'd probably have said, did you come to this conclusion because your husband comes home and yells at you about the house being a mess and dinner not being ready? Because then I could see how you might think that. OP replies, oh, I'm not even upset about her stay-at-home mum status. Her daughter is 6 months old, and she hasn't had a job since college 10 years ago. She's been on her father's payroll since. She's been a housewife for 5 years, still a full-time job. I guess I was just looking for an ear, and to hear someone who hasn't been in the workforce with a traditional boss in a decade say, it's just common practice, just floored me. Another commenter says, not the asshole. Yelling isn't okay, and your boss sounds wildly unfit to manage anyone. I mean, I'm not sure what your delivery was like, but you're right that Haley doesn't have a clue what she's talking about, and I'd feel the same way if I were in your situation. Also, what does on her father's payroll for tax reasons mean? He pays her for not actually working? He's trying to avoid paying some sort of business tax? OP says, I didn't yell or raise my voice, it was a concerned, stern tone. As for the tax thing, her father owns a business and she quote-unquote works there. That's all I can say without it being too identifiable. Info. Is it possible Haley wasn't trying to invalidate your experience? While I agree that calling it common practice sounds dismissive, you should toughen up because this is how things are, I could alternatively read it as a more commiserative comment. It sucks that this is how things are. OP says, she said it nonchalant, like accept it and move on. She even said, you're not going to find a boss that's not going to yell these days. Yeah, I think Haley's a bit detached from reality in that train of thought, because what the hell is going on with that? Oh yeah, you should accept abuse from your superiors because that is normal and acceptable in today's day and age. Like, yeah, it does happen, of course it happens, but that doesn't mean that it's acceptable. It doesn't mean it's something you should put up with. And I think I'm on OP's side for this one, saying like the way she delivered it, being nonchalant and not in a, it sucks that these things exist, more so shut up and take it. Yeah, no, she's an asshole for saying that. So no, you're not an asshole, OP, not at all. And now, on to the update. I did end up apologizing to Haley if I struck a nerve, and she was actually really understanding. She admitted she hadn't realized how long she'd been out of the workforce and that her expectations were based on how her dad ran his business, which put things in perspective for both of us. As for my boss, I had a follow-up meeting with HR and used the magic phrase, hostile work environment. I filed a formal complaint and was told that action had been taken. I used to work in HR myself, so I know that likely means that she received a write-up. I was also told that she got a talking to from her boss. I'm currently job hunting, but since the complaint, she's been surprisingly pleasant. That said, I'm keeping my head down and covering my bases, just in case she tries to build a case against me. Eyes wide open now. In the comments, Dryaduinth says, wow, This contains a lot of reasons to be glad that I don't work for Haley's dad. Yeah, while Haley was being out of touch, I'm kinda scared of what she's normalized is okay. If she hasn't worked a traditional job since college, I'm kinda wondering if the last job she worked might have been a hospitality or retail one. I'm not sure about retail, but yelling is very normalized in hospitality. Quote, based on how her dad runs his business, I have a lot of concerns now. Same. I'm also worried how he or his wife runs the household. Also, the whole tax benefits for someone who doesn't actually work there is sketchy, as it's not illegal if it's like your family, but some auditors won't like it. I honestly don't even know if OP's original comment was that rude. She just said the truth that Haley hasn't had a boss in a decade, and Haley was being out of touch. However, to save what seems like an important friendship, it's probably good that she apologized. Also, I doubt the boss has changed for the long run, but at least she's pretending so that OP doesn't have to suffer while job hunting. Yeah, not a great update, all things considered, but at least it's one with an ending. That ending being, holy shit, what is Haley's professional, I guess, quote-unquote, work life like? And what's her home life like? That this is so normalized for her, and that was genuinely a nonchalant response and not just her being snarky. We gotta go send someone to go rescue her, because that does not sound like a fun place to be living or a fun reality to exist in. Thanks for the story, OP, and thank you for the update. Our next post is by user Clown Fu, and it's titled, My fiancé, 26 female, is not happy to find out that I, 26 male, was a clown. Throwaway account, but this is such a specific situation that I'm certain she'll see it, but my friends won't. So some context. I'm a pretty successful graphic designer. I was already working from home for a lot of projects for a long time before everyone started self-quarantining and practicing social distancing. While I'm definitely not part of the essential workforce, I've still managed to find some work to keep me busy. My fiancé has been furloughed from work and, as such, has been staying home with me, and we've been spending a lot of quality time together. One night, we were having fun and joking together, and I jokingly said that everyone does weird things for money when they're in school, like start an Etsy or sell feet pics. She joked back and fake accused me of selling drugs, and I told her that it wasn't anything illegal, illicit, nothing related to sex or drugs, but then accidentally let it slip that it was just embarrassing to me personally. And then after a second, she stopped laughing because it became real. We talked about it, and I said I didn't want to talk about it because it's super embarrassing and isn't who I am at all. She said that she understood and gave me my space about it for a couple of days. But after that couple of days, she seemed uncomfortable. And when I asked her about it, she admitted she was concerned about what I did for money. I told her it wasn't anything huge. I really just didn't want to talk about it, and I wished her to respect that and to trust me. But I could tell her not knowing was beginning to genuinely upset her. That night, I thought long and hard that this is the woman I want to marry, so I should be open about my past. So relented and told her the truth. I used to be a clown. She was unhappy that it was something that I hid from her, but it was a period of my life over the course of 2.5 months and around 12 parties. She's been cold to me since, and that really sucks because we've been spending a lot of time together and we aren't really talking as much as we have been. From what I understand, she's probably more upset that I had to be pressed to tell her rather than admit it to her of my own volition, and I think I may have violated her trust. Honestly, the clown thing just never came up, because who talks about their part-time jobs from almost 5 years ago? It's not on my resume, and it was before we started dating, but I did end up sitting down with her and telling her everything. Now I'm so scared that was a mistake because of how she's acting now. She hasn't told anyone, and we haven't really argued either, but now I'm wondering if I'm just reading into how she's acting and obsessing over this new piece of information that I put into her world. It feels like there's a new distance between us. Now, I wasn't hiding the fact that I was a semi-professional clown out of malice. I wasn't part of any unions or anything, just kind of a performance for hire, but more out of embarrassment because it's far and away from the type of work I do and the person that I am today. Honestly, it's not a dark period of my life or anything, And I think the story itself is interesting. I'm one of those types that think that some bad decisions can make good stories to a degree, but it's not something that I like to talk about, because while it is an objectively funny story, it doesn't have a particularly good ending. My act was very specific and weird. Only 2 or 3 friends know about it, I think, because they were at the party where I got the idea to perform as a clown for money, and I literally just used the same costume from that party for my acts. All things considered, I was pretty successful for what amounted to some weekend gigs. I didn't want it to be something weird that would follow me for the rest of my life, so I was secretive about it for those couple of months. I was always paid in cash, never check, and this was before electronic payments were huge, as in I didn't have Venmo or do PayPal. Surprisingly, I made a few $1,000s that I had put towards some fun things that I own, like game systems, electric skateboard, etc., but I stopped when that terrifying clown hoax of 2016 was happening and heard that people were getting ready to gang up and beat up clowns. So I thought that it was best to cash out and hang up the clown costume, so to speak. Also, because I know it'll be asked, back in uni, I was an athlete as well. Kind of. I was part of a martial arts club where we would perform martial arts choreography at certain school events. It was kind of like color guard, but with punching. When I told fiancé this during our first few months of dating, she made fun of me relentlessly for days, but she ultimately thought that it was kinda cool. Anyway, I put that athleticism in my act, where I would break boards and do some parkour, but I'd also do some clown stuff like smack myself in the face with whipped cream in a dollar store pie crust and talk in a stupid voice and trip. It was fun because I was making little kids laugh and impressing them more than I was scaring them. Sometimes I'd get a parent involved and have them steal my clown nose and run away, and I'd trip and fall chasing them at first, which would set up the parkour chase scene of my act after I put some distance between us. By the way, it's hard to convince big dads that yes, I will absolutely catch up to you, and it will be much faster than you think. The kids love the act, and I learned that I would generally get paid more if I involved the family, with plenty of warning beforehand of what I was capable of. I never ever advertised this. This was just word of mouth, and I think all of my clients knew each other in some way and knew me as basically a friend of a friend. Anyway, TLDR, I told my fiancé about my part-time clown gig, and now she's being distant with me while we're quarantined, and I'm unsure what to do. When should I have disclosed in our 2.5-year relationship that I was once a clown? In the comments, HDTV123 says, "Dude, why are you acting like being a clown is on par with serial killing as a part-time job? I personally would have found that super funny and endearing. I think your girl's reaction is really weird and uncalled for. I don't think the girl is upset because he was a clown. I think it's more that he wouldn't tell her and let her imagination run wild, probably feeling anxious for days, and all for something so minor. If my fiancé didn't trust me enough that he refused to disclose that he was a clown, I would find that upsetting." Yeah, let's be honest, with that build-up, my first thought totally would have been stripper and or callboy. And frankly, I'd also probably have been a bit put off by the fact that he didn't just say it, but made me think who knows what for days and everything. It's just extremely weird. OP on how he got into being a clown. Well, to be fair, I didn't do it because I was hurting for money. It started out as a favor to a friend that ended up snowballing into a paying gig that paid for some fun toys and knickknacks and a whole lot of pizzas. I know that it wasn't her intent to make me feel ashamed of it, and I don't hold it against her. Also, the other comments have pointed out that she basically might just be getting stir-crazy, which we have talked about happening. And it's more that I did it for a short period of time, and it was in a time of my life, an entrepreneurial 21-year-old, where I did a lot of dumb and weird shit, and I attribute my brief stunt as a clown as one of the weirder ones that is largely unbelievable. I understand his apprehension to say it and be like, no, it's really embarrassing, I don't want to talk about it. I get that completely, but I think in this situation, he took half measures. He let her know that he had a secret that was very weird for himself, but the way he communicated it was like, I feel like any normal person would think that he was selling himself for cash, either sexually or who knows what. Or, yeah, he was dealing drugs, because him being like, no, it's embarrassing and it's like, it's a part of my life I want to move on from. No, you wouldn't understand. I haven't told anyone about this, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, that's the message that comes across when you say something like that. And then to string her along for so long with this and have it be something completely innocuous, like being a clown, yeah, I can see why she'd be upset. Because it's like, why didn't you just tell me that from the start? It's not that big of a deal. We've been together for 2.5 years. I feel like you should be able to trust me, but who knows? And now, onto the update. Wow, so I wasn't expecting this to blow up as much as it did. Or like, at all. I've spent a lot of my workday, as I work from home, reading all the comments and replies and tweets. Fiancé and I sat down and talked about it. I told her about this post because I was genuinely concerned about what I should do in this situation, and I have a bad habit about making jokes about bad situations sometimes, but we had a civil discussion. She told me that the reason she was acting distant was because, like some of you said, she thought that I was lying about the clown thing. The reason I was embarrassed about it is because I didn't fully commit to it. No matter how it's phrased, telling someone that you were a party clown for 3 months either gets met with, wow, that's cool, or holy crap, what a lie. And she, like so many of you, went with the latter. So we talked about it like adults. I calmly explained that I was not lying, and that the story is stupid and inconsequential. But the circumstances in general of being a clown, from start to finish, is unbelievable in a way. I got the idea of being a clown at a costume party when a former friend told a drunk me that he thought my costume was fun and that I should be a clown for his nephew's birthday party. I thought he was joking until he actually contacted me about it the next Saturday and said he'd pay me $100 to $200 for the whole day. Being 21, that's a lot of scratch for being an idiot for a bit, so I did it, and then it just turned into a thing. I told her that I stopped being a clown because I didn't want it to get out that I was being one so publicly, and it was around the time that I kept seeing posts on Twitter and Tumblr about people getting together to hunt clowns, and I felt that even if it was fake, the chance of it being real and it happening to me was not really one that I wanted to take. It was fun for a bit. If I had been a clown for like half a year, I'd probably tell more people about it, but doing it for a short period of time comes off as kind of a lie. If you need proof, literally read half of the comments on this post. My fiancé is not crazy and high maintenance, she's normal. A little wild sometimes and kinda cooped up here, but I love her all the same. Anyway, she believes me, which I'm grateful for. I apologized for not telling her sooner, and she apologized for pressing me to talk about something so clearly, weirdly polarizing. Like, really, this wasn't so much a post asking you all to take sides in the matter, like you were all so seemingly ready to do, but more like asking advice on what I should do to try and bridge the gap in communication. She still seems to have some reservations, so I promised her that I would try and do my act for her in the park when the quarantine is lifted. She asked me to do it for her now, but I told her that our apartment is too small and filled with things that might break. I talked to her in my clown voice, and she hated it because she said in her words, "It sounds like Goofy on speed." Thank you, everyone. In the comments, iFlap21 says, also, I sense that it was probably more difficult for you to come clean about this, since when you told her about the martial arts thing, her first reaction was to mock and ridicule you for days. I would honestly understand you hesitating to open up that part of your life to someone who is so willing and happy to make you the butt of the joke. OP replies, thank you. You understand. For us, it's water under the bridge, and she has since apologized, and we watch martial arts movies together. Sometimes at her suggestion, which is also another reason among the list of many that I asked her to marry me. Tequila Earworm asks, have you brought up to her that the fact that she made fun of you relentlessly for doing martial arts might have played a part in your reluctance to tell her about this part of your life? If you want to be trusted with information, you have to act in a trustworthy manner. OP says, this comment was actually really insightful, and she read the comment and brought it up in our conversation. Thank you for your input. Truly. Strange reactions all around. Like one commenter said, he's acting like he did something truly shameful. Sounds like there's a lot of mistrust at play here. This dude's more ashamed of his clowning than I am of my own history with drugs. Super weird vibes. I got into shoes. Big shoes. And then the red nose. Next thing I knew, I was hustling balloon animals. Yeah, I really, truly do not understand why he was acting so shady about it, and I can see how that would cause her to be like, nice story. After all of that suspicious behavior of yours, suddenly it's clowning, and it's not, you were selling drugs. Right, you really want me to believe that? Weird, but I'm glad that they were able to get past it together and figure this one out. Hopefully he learns from his mistakes and doesn't do something like that again, but we'll see, I guess. Our next post is by user ThrowRA Chronically, and it's titled, My 29 female, husband, 31 male, wants kids, but I think I want a divorce. My husband and I have been together for 8 years. The last 3 we've been married. Little things keep adding up, and I don't even know how to approach these issues. He wants kids soon, but I can't trust that he would support me. I'm trying to figure out if I try to work on us or just leave. Recently, as in the last 4 years, I've been dealing with chronic health issues. But just this year alone, I've had 3 surgeries to fix various things for my health. Our sex life hasn't been good in a few years since I got ill. Maybe once or twice a month. He's told me that it's not enough and he's feeling rejected and is making my mental health worse, but if we have kids, we won't be able to have sex while I'm recovering. I work 5 to 6 days a week, 12-hour night shifts in healthcare. I am the primary breadwinner in our relationship, and he bounces from job to job and recently was unemployed for over a year while he was claiming to be applying for jobs. I know the job market is horrible right now, so I wasn't pushing. I found out he was lying. He hadn't been applying for anything in about 6 months, including the jobs that I got him recommended for through some connections I have. We got into a massive fight, and I basically told him that if he didn't have a job at the end of the month, I was leaving, and he could figure out bills himself. Not even a week later, he was back working at his old job. I still do all of the cooking, cleaning, and household upkeep. On my days off, I spend 3 to 4 hours just putting everything in order for the week. Even when he wasn't working, he wasn't doing anything except playing video games in another room while I slept. So when I'd wake up, there would be laundry that I'd have to switch or cat litter that I'd have to scoop. He wants kids soon, but with my chronic health problems, it's going to make children a really hard process on my body, lots of health risks, and I would basically have to be on bed rest the whole time and in and out of doctor's appointments. I couldn't work or do anything really, and I'm just scared that I won't get the support that I need. I don't even know if I want to have kids with him anymore. I've asked him about therapy, individual or couples, and he is dismissive, saying therapy hasn't helped in the past. So I've asked about medications, but he doesn't want to take a pill every day. I don't want to come across as horrible or manipulative, but I'm about ready to write out everything I do. Bill payments, chores, time I'm at work, etc., and have him do it all for a month and then tell me he thinks that we can have kids right now. Edit. A few things since this is a real story and not AI, and I'm a real person who is making choices in order to keep up with the current economy and situation. 1. I work the hours I do so I can build up my PTO and sick time for my procedures and recovery time. Yes, I have FMLA for these, but it only pays out 60% of my wage versus 100% if I use PTO. Overtime accrues PTO times 2 and pays time and a half. We also have a pickup bonus of $10 an hour. I've been working at this hospital since 2015 as a CNA and phlebotomist since 2018 and an RN since 2020, so I have seniority, and that comes with benefits. Yay unions. 2. I work night shift because it has the flexibility for my schedule, and they work with me for my restrictions. I'm lucky enough to work in a hospital that uses lifts and is staffed as well as can currently be. Shift differential also gives me an additional $6 an hour, and that quickly adds up. 3. My surgeries were laparoscopic, and recovery time is about 1 to 4 weeks on average. Surgery 1 and 3 were both exploratory. My second was to remove a lesion in my intestines that connected them to my abdominal wall, as well as a cyst on my ovary, and recovery was 4 weeks, with 4 more on restrictions. I'm about to have a 4th surgery to remove my gallbladder. Recovery is 1 to 2 weeks, with 2 weeks of recovery. Yes, I've had a lot of surgeries this year, but I haven't had any before this unless you count upper and lower GI scopes, pelvic floor testing, gastric emptying test, x-rays, CTs, an MRI, labs, genetic testing, and HIDA scans. Or maybe the diet changes and medications that you have to be on for months at a time before you'd see any real changes. I also have the birth control implant, and me coming off of that would involve about 3 different doctors' inputs and oversight. 4. I've blocked all of my husband's accounts and his friends' accounts that I know of. I plan on deleting this at some point, but I've just gotten angrier with each comment and everything I type out. At this point, I don't care if he finds this. Maybe it would be a wake-up call he needs. 5. Our wedding was supposed to take place in November of 2020. This obviously didn't happen, and we rescheduled to the end of 2021 so we didn't lose deposits. He quit his job about 2 months after our wedding. 6. People do things like meal prep for a week and find relaxation in cooking. My hospital provides scrubs. When I'm home, I have more than 6 pairs of underwear. So it's not like I don't have clothes if I don't do laundry every day. I appreciate all the comments, but to the rude ones especially, please remember that I'm a real person. I'm sorry I have to justify every small detail of my health problems for you. Unfortunately, the knee brace girl in middle school sometimes grows up and still has health problems. This is my first time being alive, and not everything is going to be perfect. I'm trying my best, and sometimes people do stupid things because they love someone. In the comments, Opposite Exam says, "Read this back to yourself. You already know that you should leave ASAP." Agreed. Good luck getting everything sorted and your health. Having kids with someone doesn't fix a relationship, it adds more complications. This, using kids to prop up a failing marriage, is about as insane as it sounds. Why is OP still giving her husband the benefit of the doubt? His actions have shown he's a horrible husband. He will eventually make a horrible father. Giving him homework to see if he'll change? Good luck with that. I hope you realize that the only reason he wants kids now is so that you can't leave him. He senses that you're reaching your breaking point, so that's why he wants to have kids soon to prevent that. Yup, asshole's gearing up for a baby trap. She best watch her birth control for tampering. Sounds about right. Sounds like he's trying to baby trap her, and that he has the capability to go back to work. He has all the means in the world, yet he just refuses to because he knows that she'll pick up the slack, and that she's sort of trapped in a way because they're married. So that means, in a way, he thinks that she's more obligated to kind of put up with his laziness because, well, we already tied the knot. I can take my foot off the gas and let you take over and be my bang maid. Sounds like he just wanted a clone of his mother and not an actual life partner. He wants a baby for exactly the reasons the comments have stated. I'm sorry that you've had to justify your existence to people in the comments. It shouldn't be that way, and I think you should take the advice of the comments that are telling you to get out and listen to them and just get that divorce. And now, on to the update. Hello again, Reddit. My previous post is on my page. I tried to link it, but the pain medication might be impairing me. I had my surgery a few days ago, and since I have time off, I figured that I'd write an update for anyone curious. It will be long, and I apologize. I talked with my lawyer last week, and the hope is that papers are to be drafted, and he will be formally served when he comes back from his work trip in 2 weeks. On one of my off days, I wanted to have a discussion about our relationship, and it didn't go well. I had spent the night cleaning and getting the house put together because my anxiety was so bad. When he woke up in the morning, I had breakfast made, and we just made polite small talk. I started the conversation by asking him if he was happy in our relationship. I'll summarize the conversation. I ask, "Are you happy like this? With us? I feel like we're just roommates more than a married couple." He says, "I don't think either of us have been happy for a while. I do still love you and want to raise children with you. You'll be a great mom. I've been meaning to talk to you about something." And I say, "Okay." And he says, "Do you remember my friends in City and how they were having problems in their relationship after fake name came out as Ace? how they opened their relationship so that fake name could still get his needs met. At this point, I was just staring at him. He kept rambling on. I've joined some groups online. They say it saved their marriage. And with how much I'm traveling now for work, it would be every other 2 weeks, you know? And I'm in city name, so it's not like it would be someone you know or would ever meet. I ask, what the fuck? And he says, I mean, think about it. We could have a surrogate this way. I know it would be a lot, but we could make it work. You've always talked about fostering or adopting, and it would be just like that. I reply, did you get someone pregnant? Is this your way of telling me you cheat on me when you travel for work? And he says, no, God no. There was one girl at a bar who was flirting with me and it just felt nice to be wanted like that. He then pulled out his phone and started showing me support groups he had joined online for poly people in monogamous relationships. There was probably 3 or 4 of them that he'd been texting in for the last few weeks, trying to gain the confidence to talk to me about opening up our relationship. He brought up how he knows I've been thinking about switching to travel contracts and I can meet people there. But then when we come back home, we're together and married because we still love each other. I have nothing against people who are in poly relationships. We have friends who are and have met their partners and go out all together. It's just not for me. When I'm with someone, I want to be the only person they are with. I don't want to get tested regularly. I don't want to risk surprise pregnancy. I don't want to feel jealous or wonder if he's texting another girl while he's supposed to be spending time with me. I let him finish his speech before I told him that it hasn't felt like we've been married in a long time and I'm done. Hearing that he wants to see other people killed any lost feelings I may have had. I'm not in love with him anymore, and staying together isn't going to make either of us happy. We both want kids, but our timelines are different. What we want from the future is different now. I asked him to move out, and he didn't seem surprised. I walked away and left him in the kitchen before I drove to my friend's house since I just couldn't be there. We spent the day drinking and eating ice cream while I went from crying to laughing to screaming. She's currently going through a divorce over her ex-husband's porn addiction and the debt that he put them in because of it. She gave me her lawyer's information and I had an appointment set up with him a few days later. I went home the next day and he had moved most of his stuff out. His side of the closet is empty, his cat, the stuff in the bathroom, a few of our wedding pictures have been taken off the wall, and I can't find them, so I think he took them, and his gaming setup. The house feels incredibly empty now. He travels for work, so I'm used to being in the house alone, but now my toothbrush is lonely in the cup on the sink. Our garage feels bigger now, the bed gets cold. I only have to cook for one now. I miss his presence. I miss having someone to come home to, and I won't lie, I've spent the last week crying, and my heart hurts. We didn't speak for a few days after he left. His mum reached out before he did. She wanted to see how I was doing, and if there was anything she could do for me. We had a great relationship, and I'm honestly going to miss having her in my life. We have a lot of the same dietary restrictions, but for different reasons. She was my food adventure buddy. We would go out for a coffee or lunch to some of the restaurants and cafes that we can safely eat at. She invited me out for coffee, and I went. When we met up the next day, we made small talk until the divorce came up. She let me know how he was doing. He moved into one of the houses on their property. They have like 60 acres and 4 houses on the property that different family members live in. He hasn't really gotten out of bed. She's worried about him and wanted us to talk it out. She asked if I was willing to go to couples counseling, and I told her that I've been asking for that for about a year, and his response was no. I was drowning, and he didn't want to help fix it, but now that I've decided to leave is when he wants to work it out, and I just can't. She stayed silent for a while before asking me if I still loved him. I do, but I don't. I told her I loved who he was, but I'm too full of hurt that I don't feel the love anymore. I can't keep taking care of him like he's my child. I can't keep bankrolling our lives alone. I need a partner who is able to support me, and I haven't felt supported by her son in a long time. We were both crying by the end of our talk, and she gave me a really big hug before leaving. He wanted to talk the next day, and he came back to the house to talk. When he came in, it was awkward. He wanted to give me a hug, and when he and I did, he went in for a kiss, and I turned my head so he kissed my cheek. We talked for a while about our relationship and how it got to this point. He apologized for a lot. He went into specifics of how he never helped around the house. He could have done more since he was home, and it wasn't fair to me that he put it all on me. He told me he's been looking at a new job, one where he doesn't have to travel, and it's actually in the field that he got his degree in. He gave me an update on his cat, who is struggling to the adjustment of the new house. I told him that I'll have papers for him in a few weeks, and he couldn't look me in the eye for the rest of the time he was there. I helped him pack some of the odds and ends that he left around the house, and he left again. At the appointment with the lawyer, we talked about what it would look like for the divorce process. Unless he wants the house, I plan to buy his half. If I do that, then there's a good chance I won't have to pay alimony unless he fights for it. He has the potential to make more than me, so my lawyer doesn't think I'll have to pay anyways. We don't have children, unless you count fur babies, and I took a pregnancy test recently to confirm that I'm not pregnant, so that won't be a factor. We each own our own cars and pay for them ourselves. We have a joint savings account, but I can prove that I've been the only one contributing for the last 2 years, so it's likely that I'll get most of that. I'm not touching it besides for the bills for the house, per my lawyer's advice. I will hopefully have papers for my soon-to-be ex to fill out, and if he gets a lawyer to look over one. My 2 cats have been laying in bed with me and haven't left my side since he left. They're trying to make me feel better, but it's hard. My friend who is also getting a divorce has said that we'll have a hot girl summer together, and it makes me laugh, but I don't think I'm ready or even close to it. I don't want to meet new people, and I don't want to do first dates again. I think I'm just going to be single for a while. My mum sent me this poem after I told them about the divorce, and it makes me cry reading it. I've learned a lot from this relationship, and I'm content being the crazy old cat lady for the foreseeable future. I will never love the same after you. I was always the girl that loved so hard that it hurt until it hurt. I watched you change every day until you eventually became someone I told myself I would never settle for. But how do I leave you? I told myself it was just a rough patch and we can work through this. I will do more to make you love me again, because I don't give up on people, so why would I do that to you? I will put myself through hell for you. I will hate myself to love you, and I will rip myself apart so that you feel cared for. Because I was serious when I said I would die for you. Because I almost did. I guess I ripped myself apart so much that I had nothing left. I cared so much about you that I stopped caring about myself completely. I lost who I was, and I was no longer strong. And I watched myself change every day until I eventually became someone I told myself I would never be. But it's my fault for not having a limit on how much I'm willing to give, and for how long I'm willing to stay, and for loving you more than I loved me. Because I loved you so hard that it hurt, so I will never love the same after you. I Will Never Love the Same After You by Ali Harding. Thanks Reddit for your support and validating my feelings. I don't know yet if I'm going to delete this or not, but I don't think I'll update this or ever log into this account again. I hope everyone stays happy and healthy. Take care. In the comments, Weekly Conversation says, "Wow, he's selfish AF. He wanted you to stay in an unhappy marriage and allow him to have sex with other women? Divorce is the right thing. And then have her raise any kids resulting from his affairs, presumably while he continued to not lift a finger despite her chronic illnesses, and tried to frame it like he'd be doing her a favor. And this hobosexual had the audacity to essentially say you weren't fucking him enough? Bro. Maybe if he hadn't made you his mummy/sugar mummy, yeah, I'd lose attraction for that real quick. You were his overworked slave while not having a full set of spoons to begin with because of health problems, and he still was like, cry, but what about my sad boner? Fuck him. I'm sorry that he couldn't have figured it out and appreciated you while he had the chance. Breaking attachments are always hard, even when they desperately need to be broken. Your health will improve dramatically without his unbridled source of stress and betrayal in your life. Ask me how I know. Yeah, we really got to do something about all the hobosexuals of the world, because it leads to situations like this where the hobosexual will continue to take and then delude themselves that, like, oh, I've already taken so much and I've been allowed to get away with so much, I should be able to start cheating, or ethically cheating, I guess. I'll get her to agree to an open relationship. And like, even in a hypothetical situation where that were to happen, if she were to be having sex with other people, I can imagine he would lose his goddamn mind and be like, this arrangement was for me, not for you. You were supposed to be having sex with me. How dare you have sex with other people? Feels like a tale as old as time, and the only correct thing to do in a situation like this is to leave and not look back, and never regret making that decision to leave, because what a messy situation, what a disgustingly messy mess to find yourself in, and I am so happy for OP that she got out of there. Thank you for the story, and thank you for the update, OP. Anyway, guys, that's where I'm going to end today's episode. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.